"Your father has ruined my life." Those 5 words, screamed between 2 young people who were supposed to be forming some kind of blended family, not whispered behind closed doors in some private diary, actually said, raw, ugly, and full of grief, directly to Prince William's face. That's where this story really begins. Not with palace ceremonies, not with carefully arranged balcony photos, not with the polished smiles at Royal Ascot. It begins with 2 kids, both hurting, both defending the parent they loved most, colliding in a way that left marks nobody talks about. Today we are diving into one of the quietest tensions inside the British royal family. And quiet doesn't mean small. Sometimes the stories that stay hidden are the ones that shape everything. Laura Lopes. Most people hear that name and draw a blank. She's not on the balcony. She doesn't carry out royal engagements. You won't find her name in the court circular. And yet, this is a woman whose mother is the Queen of England, whose stepfather sits on the throne, and whose children, her actual children, have stood on Buckingham Palace's most famous balcony during the King's coronation in 2023. Think about that for a second. Her kids have been more publicly integrated into the royal family than she ever has been. That gap between how close she is and how far outside she remains is exactly where all the tension lives. Laura Rose Parker Bowles was born in 1978. She grew up at Ryde Manor, an 8-bedroom estate in Wiltshire sitting on 70 acres, swimming pool, tennis courts, private countryside. By any measure, an extraordinarily privileged childhood. She attended St. Mary's Shaftesbury, an elite Catholic boarding school, before going on to Oxford Brookes University to study history of art and marketing. Accounts from people who followed her trajectory note one thing consistently: she built her own life, completely and deliberately on her own terms. She didn't use her mother's growing royal connections to open doors. She managed the Space Gallery in London. She co-founded her own fine art gallery called 11 in Belgravia in 2005. That's not a woman coasting on privilege. That's someone actively distancing herself from the spotlight. In 2006, she married Harry Lopes, a former Calvin Klein model who quietly retrained as a chartered accountant. Their wedding in Wiltshire was attended by a young Prince William and Prince Harry. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone who was paying attention. Close enough to royalty that princes attend your wedding, far enough outside that you're still just a civilian. They now have 3 children together. A daughter, Eliza, who served as a bridesmaid at William and Catherine's wedding in 2011. Twin boys, Gus and Louis, who were pages of honor at King Charles's coronation in May 2023. Her children on that balcony, her children walking beside the king. But not her. There's something deeply human about that image when you really sit with it. A mother watching her children participate in ceremonies she herself is not part of. Not because she did anything wrong, not because of any scandal or falling out. Just because of the strange, in-between territory her life occupies, permanently adjacent to power, without ever quite touching it. Whispers from royal commentators over the years have described her position as inherently uncomfortable. Not unkind words, just honest ones. And here's what makes this story more than just a curiosity about family dynamics. Princess Anne is involved, and when Princess Anne is involved, nothing stays polite for long. Let's talk about what really happened when Charles and Camilla got married in April 2005. Because depending on which side of that wedding you were standing on, the experience was completely different. For Camilla's children, Laura and her brother Tom Parker Bowles, that day represented something enormous. Years of watching their mother be publicly mocked, humiliated, called a homewrecker, compared unfavorably to a princess the entire world adored. years of Camilla being the villain in the most famous love story of the 20th century. And then, finally, legitimacy. A title. Recognition. Their mother walking out of the shadows and into Windsor's Great Hall as the wife of the future king. For William and Harry, standing in that same room, the feeling was the opposite. Their mother had suffered. That's not a contested point. The marriage Diana entered and the life she actually lived inside it were two very different things, and both boys grew up watching her carry that pain. Now their father was publicly celebrating his union with the woman many people, including people in that room, blamed for contributing to that suffering. Royal author Katie Nicholl, whose 2010 book William and Harry, Behind the Palace Walls, has been cited extensively by journalists and royal historians, wrote about what those years looked like from the inside. According to Nicholl's account, William and Laura engaged in what she described as terrible fights during that period. Terrible. Not awkward, not tense, terrible. William reportedly blamed Camilla openly for the pain she had caused his mother. Laura, according to these accounts, pushed back hard. She defended her mother just as fiercely as William defended his. And at some point during one of those confrontations, she said it directly to him, "Your father has ruined my life." Insider accounts describe these as raw emotional confrontations, not polite disagreements over dinner, not managed disputes mediated by courtiers. Two young people, each carrying grief, each defending the parent they loved, going at each other without filters. Consider the weight of what Laura was carrying. Her mother had spent over a decade being publicly torn apart. The tabloids ran unflattering photos. The world's sympathy was entirely with Diana. Camilla's name was practically a punchline in British culture through the 1990s. Laura grew up watching all of that, watching her mother absorb that hatred, and then watching the man at the center of it all, Prince Charles, continue living his life relatively unscathed, while Camilla took most of the cultural punishment. So yes, she fought back. Hard. What's remarkable, given the sheer emotional violence of those early confrontations, is that some sort of peace was eventually reached, or at least the appearance of one. Laura attended William's wedding. Her children participated in royal ceremonies. The families share holidays at Sandringham. On the surface, the wounds seem to have healed, but royal insiders and those who study the family closely consistently note one thing. In the Windsor family, nothing is ever actually forgotten. The surface can be smooth, and the tension underneath can still be completely intact. And here is the part that doesn't get enough attention. Laura's position in this family is not just emotionally complicated. It's structurally bizarre in a way that would put almost anyone on edge. Her mother is the queen. Her stepfather is the king. Her half-brothers, if we can even use that terminology, are the Prince of Wales and, until recently, the Duke of Sussex. She has sat with these people at Christmas. She attends Royal Ascot. She shows up to the Cheltenham Festival with her mother. She is woven into the fabric of their lives. And yet, no title, no public funding, not a working royal. By every formal definition, Laura Lopes is a private citizen. Royal insiders describe this as a psychologically unstable position to maintain year after year. If she gets too close, people whisper that she's riding her mother's status. If she pulls back, people say she's rejecting the family. There is no version of her behavior that doesn't invite criticism from someone. She is permanently caught between two worlds, and the middle ground between them offers very little comfort. In December 2025, it was confirmed that neither Laura nor Tom Parker Bowles would be joining King Charles and Queen Camilla for Christmas at Sandringham. Tom explained it to the Daily Mail simply, "Nora's my sister. It'll be every other year. 1 year on, 1 year off. 1 year on, 1 year off. For Christmas with your own mother." That alternating schedule tells you everything about the delicate, managed nature of Laura's relationship with the monarchy. Not quite in, not quite out. Rotating access to the most powerful family in Britain like a shared custody arrangement. Now we get to the woman you absolutely do not disrespect. Princess Anne, the Princess Royal. If you've only seen Anne in formal photographs, at the back of palace lineups, in military dress uniform, slightly impatient looking at ceremonies, you may not fully appreciate what she actually represents inside this family. So let's be specific about it. In 2025, Princess Anne completed 478 public engagements. 478. In a single year. The only member of the royal family who surpassed her was the king himself, with 535. That averages out to more than one royal engagement every single day of the year, without a single day off. No excuses, no gaps, no quiet periods. Royal expert Richard Fitzwilliam stated in the Daily Mail that Anne is absolutely pivotal in keeping public support for the monarchy. He didn't say valuable, he said essential. That's a meaningful distinction. Body language expert Darren Stanton, speaking to Betfair, went further and said that William and Anne represent the future of the monarchy together. He described Anne as someone who provides William with what he called great solace, grounding, wisdom, stability in the middle of a royal world that has become increasingly turbulent. Think about William's life for a moment. His father has a complicated history and a health situation that remains uncertain. His brother publicly burned bridges with the institution in a way that left real wounds. His wife has faced sustained negative media coverage. The monarchy he is set to inherit is under more scrutiny than it has been in decades. And through all of that, Princess Anne has been there. Steady, unmoving, not playing games, just working. That's why any slight against Anne lands differently than a slight against almost any other member of this family. Anne is not someone who collects flattery. She has no interest in status games or social positioning. Royal observers have said repeatedly that what you see with Anne is exactly what you get. She says what she means. She expects honesty in return. She has, by every account, zero tolerance for nonsense. For someone to make a dismissive comment about Princess Anne, even in passing, even as a throwaway remark, would not be received as a small social misstep inside this family. It would land as institutional disrespect. A challenge to everything she has built over 75 years of service. And William, who is known to be deeply loyal to his aunt, would take something like that personally. Not just formally, personally. Here is what makes the situation involving Laura Lopes so combustible when you put all of this together. Royal commentators have noted over the years that Laura has a tendency to speak her mind in family settings. She doesn't just sit quietly and smile. She is described as having her mother's directness and her father's bluntness, Andrew Parker Bowles being a former British Army officer not known for excessive diplomacy. Put that personality type into informal royal settings, Christmas dinners, race meetings, country house weekends, where old wounds are right beneath the surface and complex histories are sitting in every chair at every table. Add the fact that Laura occupies this uniquely uncomfortable in-between position, never quite sure how to calibrate herself around people who simultaneously feel like family and remain formally out of reach. Something was always going to slip. Now this needs to be said clearly and honestly because credibility matters more than drama. There is no verified tabloid report of a specific incident where Laura Lopes directly insulted Princess Anne. If British journalists had reliable sources placing a direct confrontation on the record, it would have been published. It hasn't been. What we are looking at is a documented tension between Laura and William going back years, and a set of circumstances that make friction involving Anne both plausible and, by most royal observers' assessments, likely to have occurred in some form at some point. What do we know for certain? We know the fights between William and Laura during the post-2005 period were real and documented by a respected royal author. We know that Laura attends the same informal gatherings where royal dynamics play out without cameras. We know that William's protectiveness over Anne is well established and deeply felt. And we know that Laura's tendency toward directness in a family full of carefully managed silences has been noted more than once. The question isn't whether tension exists. Royal insiders say the real question is how it shows itself. At family gatherings, wrong comments last for years. A joke lands badly. A remark comes out sharper than intended. An eye roll at the wrong moment. In a normal family, these things are forgotten within a week. In the Windsor family, they are filed away, referenced, and allowed to quietly define relationships for decades. That's the crisis here. Not a headline, not a photograph confrontation, something quieter and in many ways more damaging. The slow accumulation of moments in a family where nothing is forgiven and everything is remembered. Here is the complete picture, and it's more complicated than any single incident could explain. Laura Lopes is not a villain in this story. Neither, for that matter, is William. They are two people shaped by the same catastrophic event, Charles and Camilla's relationship and the destruction it left behind, who were then placed in permanent proximity to each other with no real roadmap for how to manage it. They were assigned to the same blended family through no choice of their own. One of them, William, lost his mother in one of the most public and traumatic ways imaginable, and then watched his father remarry. The other, Laura, watched her mother spend over a decade being vilified before finally being accepted. Both of them were right to feel what they felt. Both of them were wrong sometimes in how they showed it. The fights Katie Nicholl documented from those early years after the 2005 marriage weren't the behavior of bad people. They were the behavior of grieving young adults who had no good options and not nearly enough support for navigating what their parents had put them in the middle of. What makes this harder is that the peace they eventually reached has never been fully explained or acknowledged. Laura attended William's wedding in 2011. Her daughter Eliza walked as a bridesmaid. Her sons carried honors at the coronation in 2023. Publicly, the family appears functional. There are photographs. There are shared occasions. But witnesses and royal commentators consistently describe something underneath those polished appearances that hasn't fully resolved. Public reaction to Laura's situation, when commentators have taken the time to examine it, tends to split in a particular way. One side looks at her and sees a woman who has handled an impossible position with remarkable grace. She built her own career. She didn't sell her story. She didn't weaponize her proximity to the palace. She raised 3 children outside the relentless glare that destroys so many people connected to royalty. The other side, and this tends to be the harder royal observers, looks at the same facts and asks a more uncomfortable question. Is a woman who has benefited from proximity to the monarchy her whole life, the country estate childhood, the elite schooling, the Belgravia gallery, the children on the palace balcony, in a position to feel entitled to any resentment toward the institution that provided all of that? Both questions are fair. Neither one is complete on its own. What nobody questions is where Princess Anne sits in all of this. She earned everything she has through decades of work that most people would have quit halfway through. 478 engagements in a single year. 75 years of service. No drama, no memoirs, no interview controversies, just the work, every single day. For Anne, the distinction between someone who was born into the institution and someone who was granted access to its edges because of who their mother married is not a subtle one. It is fundamental, and anyone who appears not to respect it is going to feel the weight of that. What this entire situation reveals about the future of the monarchy is worth pausing on. The royal family is quietly getting smaller. This is not a controversial observation among those who study it closely. The working core is contracting around a tighter group: William and Catherine, Charles and Camilla for however long Charles's health holds, and Anne, who has become structurally irreplaceable. Everyone else exists on the periphery, included selectively when it serves the institution's interests. Laura Lopes sits at the very edge of that shrinking circle. She is not building a public service profile. She is not carrying out engagements. She is not becoming a working royal. She is living a genuinely private life as the Queen's daughter, and in the leaner, more focused monarchy that William is inheriting, private lives at the edge of the institution don't carry the same protection they once did. Tom Parker Bowles has at least built a public identity as a respected food writer and broadcaster with genuine credibility in his own field. Laura's profile is quieter, more internal, more deliberately invisible, and as King Charles' health remains uncertain and William's influence over the direction of the institution grows steadily stronger, these questions about what role Camilla's children will play become more pressing. Not abstract anymore. Real and immediate. One thing royal observers across the spectrum agree on: William remembers. This isn't gossip. It's a documented characteristic noted by almost every journalist and author who has covered him closely. He carries things. He does not quickly forgive people who he feels have disrespected someone he loves. He is not the kind of man who lets something go simply because time has passed. And Princess Anne, steady, tireless, honest in a way that William genuinely values, is someone he protects, not as a formal obligation, not as an institutional matter, as a personal commitment built over years of relying on her when almost everything else in his royal world was shifting. The full truth of what has passed between Laura and William and the extended family over these years will probably never be fully known. Royal families are extraordinarily skilled at managing what reaches the public and what stays inside. The cameras see the balconies and the smile at the races. They don't see the Christmas dinner table or what gets said after the third glass of wine when the household staff has been sent home. What we can say is this: a woman named Laura Lopes has spent her entire adult life navigating something genuinely difficult, being the Queen's daughter without any of the formal standing that title might imply. Standing close enough to the most famous family in the world to feel the warmth of it, but never quite. Stepping inside. She has done it largely without complaint, without selling her story, without making herself a figure of sympathy in the tabloids, and still, in a family where history never fully releases its grip, where old fights leave marks that polished surfaces can cover but not erase, she remains the person who is both too close to ignore and too far outside to be fully protected. These stories provide insight into what royal life actually costs the people who live adjacent to it, not the kings and queens, but the ones just outside the gates, watching the lights from the cold. The most interesting royal stories are rarely the ones they choose to show us.